Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and the Deadpool and Wolverine IMAX trailer playing exclusively in cinemas includes an additional scene that is blowing everyone's minds. But I think I got to the bottom of what's really going on here, so I'm gonna break it down for you along with some really interesting details we have just learned about this film. So let's take a look at the scene that is viewable only in this IMAX trailer that's just in certain cinemas. Take a look.
You mind putting your mask back on?
Super hard to eat while I'm wearing it.
It's super hard to eat when you're not.
Huh. Paul Rudd finally aged.
Okay, so when this was going around online, a few used it as an opportunity to snark on the shot composition and how Deadpool and Wolverine are not lit properly, blown out by the natural light from the windows in the background, casting the actors in shadow. But that is why I hate 99% of the takes I see on Twitter, because look at this shot in the context of the full scene with over-the-shoulder shots of Ryan and Hugh seated across from each other in the booth that we see in the fuller trailer that was released. The bulk of the scene is when they're set up this way. And you know what? It looks fine. But what a lot of people are talking about is the name of this restaurant, Joe's. You may remember in Spider-Man 2 in 2004, Peter Parker worked as a pizza delivery guy for another place called Joe's Pizza, known for its 29-minute delivery guarantee. Cool! But let's never forget that Mr. Aziz made Peter go 42 blocks in 7.5 minutes to deliver 8 extra large deep dish pizzas, he said, which is clearly a plot by Mr. Aziz to finally have an excuse to fire Peter, not only because that distance would be impossible, even for Spider-Man, but because those pizzas are clearly New York style and not deep dish. You can't even cook a Chicago style deep dish pizza in 29 minutes. So Mr. Aziz intentionally set up Peter Parker to get fired because, you know, he's had enough of his delays and his disturbances. So some saw Joe's on the side of this restaurant in Deadpool and Wolverine and began thinking, like the many other people, places, and things from Marvel past that have turned up in this post-incursion landscape like a giant junkyard, some restaurant from a past Marvel film, even from the Sony Raimiverse, could have appeared in this wasteland as well, especially with a couple other possible clues pointing to Tobey Maguire's possible cameo in this movie's post-credit scene. But this diner in Deadpool and Wolverine is not Joe's Pizza, folks. When you rewatch that scene in the 2004 Spider-Man 2 film, Joe's Pizza does not have any diner-style booths. It's a walk-in pizza joint with tall boy tables, meant to quickly eat your slice, drink only Dr. Pepper, because if you look closely in the background, that is the only drink the product placement contract for this movie allowed, and then once you are done, wipe your hands, throw away your trash, and go! Also, Joe's Pizza does not serve chili or omelets or any other breakfast dishes that are listed on that window. So to try to figure out what this is, I went through my mental archives of Marvel diners. There is the diner from the Marvel one-shot The Consultant, where Coulson meets with Sitwell during the events of Fury's Big Week to connect the dots for the viewers, explaining how the original plan was to recruit Abomination for the Avengers lineup, but S.H.I.E.L.D. intervened and sent Tony Stark to a very drunk General Ross so that the Avengers would recruit Bruce Banner instead. But that diner was a rentable red diner with red booths and no coin-operated tabletop jukeboxes like this one has. Now, the exact specials and the prices painted on the window could give us a clue, which you can read when you flip the image horizontally. We see Joe's famous chili bowl, 65 cents, Philly steak sandwich, 85 cents, and then on the other window, 2 eggs, 2 bacon, hash browns, $1.25, Joe's easy omelet, 45 cents, French toast and eggs, I assume the same amount, breakfast sandwiches, 85 cents, and then coffee, 5 cents. Those are some low prices, folks, pre-inflation. This must be a diner from the 1950s. Now, there was the Flying Rocket Diner from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they were time traveling back to the year 1955, which did have tabletop jukeboxes. But again, red booths. And these booths with Deadpool and Wolverine are seafoam green. I thought maybe the diner from Back to the Future, which did have similar colored booths and tabletop jukeboxes, but that was Lou's Cafe. It's not Joe's. And it was a setting from a Universal property, not a Fox or a Marvel one. Not to say these movies cannot reference Back to the Future in any way, like Deadpool could at some point in this movie say, where we're going, we don't need roads. Who knows? And recently, Ryan Reynolds just wrote like a tribute piece for Michael J. Fox. There could be some connection. It's just very clearly called Joe's, and the only Joe I know in the Back to the Future continuity is Uncle Jailbird Joey, and no way in hell he's gonna be able to take over Lou's Diner, especially when we know it turns into an aerobic studio in the 1980s. So Joe could just be a nod to longtime Marvel Comics writer Joe Quesada, or maybe Deadpool writer Joe Kelly, which would align this diner name with the Liefeld's footwear store. Or go with me on this, it could be Joe Russo, because we know Joe Russo loves to make cameos in all of the MCU movies that he directed. It just would be pretty fun to see Joe Russo in a greasy the apron working the griddle of this place. I'm actually more interested to look beyond that window outside and notice that long line that's stretching out into the field. Thought it might be a road, but it's like perfectly straight. And doesn't it kind of look like it's deep into the earth, like a dug trench? Could be a border line, perhaps. With the Secret Wars #5 comic book that appeared in the first trailer, many have taken that as a clue that this landscape will eventually become part of the patchwork Battle World, where Secret Invasion will be set in the future. Battle World is made up of different Marvel countries and settings that are kind of like sewn together, so to speak, and this trench could be the barrier between one realm and another realm, and this diner could be right on the border, right before you would cross over to the other side, and maybe Alioth is unable to pass what this border is. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. It's spring, and while for a lot of us that means doing a deep cleaning of our apartment, there's no reason you can't do the same thing with your brain. Whether you're looking to begin or continue your journey with mental health, BetterHelp can help you connect to a therapist who's right for you. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier and less intimidating for a lot of people. First, use our link to go to their site, BetterHelp.com/newrockstars. The site will ask you to answer a few questions so BetterHelp can match you up with one of their over 30,000 therapists who they think will help you out the most. The therapist they pick for you will have tons of experience dealing with whatever you're going through. Every single one of their therapists is licensed, has a master's or doctorate degree, and has spent over 3 years and 1,000 hours working with people just like you. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. We've been promoting BetterHelp for a while and we've heard some amazing feedback from you guys. We got permission to share this review from one of our viewers who said, "I used to be against the idea of therapy and I didn't need it. After one session with my therapist, I completely pivoted and realized how beneficial therapy truly is." Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your home. Visit BetterHelp.com/newrockstars or choose New Rockstars during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Now, the second half of the clip shows Deadpool and Wolverine walking up to the giant Ant-Man corpse, and you don't really notice it at first, but Wolverine actively has one of Deadpool's blades just sticking out of his chest. But this clip confirms the dental analysis I did in last week's video that the corpse of Giant Man is indeed Paul Rudd, Scott Lang, and not Michael Douglas, Hank Pym. Deadpool makes a pretty solid joke about Paul Rudd's agelessness, and I've been watching Welcome to Wrexham recently, and this big moment from April 2023, where Ryan Reynolds and co-owner of Wrexham AMC, Rob McElhenney, hug after a huge Wrexham win, and it was filmed by Paul Rudd. So April 2023, that was around the time Deadpool and Wolverine was in early production in the UK. Paul Rudd was hanging out with Ryan Reynolds at that time. I mean, I just point this out because after Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and Sean Levy randomly showed up with Taylor Swift at a Chiefs-Jets game last season, I now have to keep track of all these things. Now, we also got a semi-official description of this movie's plot in the form of a Zazzle store page that actually matched the description that we got at CinemaCon, so we think it is legit, and it included this interesting description. Quote, "And not only will they be working to defeat a range of villains plaguing the Marvel Universe, bub, but they'll also be gate-crashing the MCU franchise too, and putting their own R-rated 20th Century Fox-style twist on some of our favorite moments from phases 1 through 4. So it's not just cameos we can expect in this movie. The theory that I pitched that Deadpool and Wolverine will appear at the Battle of Earth in Avengers Endgame, and for Deadpool to recreate Tony Stark's famous "I am Iron Man" line, but replace it with "I am Deadpool," that might be accurate, folks. And if Paul Rudd cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine, they could use him to restage part of the Endgame final battle to set this up. Like maybe we'll get a little explanation for that weird plot hole where Scott Lang was with Hope Van Dyne inside the Ant-Man, and at that same time we saw a separate version of Giant Man in the background of that battle. There were two Ant-Mans during that battle. Could that Giant Man be this Giant Man in Deadpool and Wolverine? I kind of want Paul Rudd just to show up in this movie just so Ryan Reynolds can get in a few digs at Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania. We need someone to talk about that movie in the Marvel Universe. Also, in an interview with Empire, reported by Variety, we learned that Ryan Reynolds said that he first pitched Deadpool 3 as a Rashomon type story about Deadpool and Wolverine told through 3 completely different perspectives, a way to make a large-scale movie in a very small way. But then apparently Kevin Feige rejected this pitch, and Ryan Reynolds came back with 18 different treatments, some almost like a Sundance film with a budget of under 10 million, using the IP in a way that they previously haven't, and Kevin Feige pitched a bigger movie, and then they kind of settled on something in between. So that is why I think we are seeing quite a few other trailer shots of Deadpool and Wolverine on a kind of road trip in this movie. Like the shot of Deadpool sticking his head out the van window, when they pull over for a meal break at this diner, when they get in a fight when the van breaks down in the middle of these woods. We are really just seeing earlier versions of this movie where it was just these two characters on a road trip together, which feels like a smaller budget Sundance movie, like, you know, Little Miss Sunshine or something. It would also give Ryan Reynolds a chance to reference planes, trains, and automobiles, because in last week's video I pointed out the image of Wade reading The Canadian Mounted, a book that came up in the previous two Deadpool movies, and the book was originally what John Candy was reading in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I kind of think we're gonna see a similar comedic dynamic in this movie. Like Deadpool is kind of John Candy's character, Wolverine is a straight man of Steve Martin's character, and we learn that Deadpool is hiding some secret heartbreak that Wolverine only puts together when he thinks back on everything Deadpool said, and then it ends with them just enjoying dinner together. In fact, let's make it 8 non-deep dish pizzas delivered by
Pizza time.
Now, yes, I do think the mystery post-credit cameo is going to be Tobey Maguire in this movie, not just because the Deadpool versus Wolverine fight choreography matches the jab, jab, hook, undercut combo that was between Tobey and Joe Manganiello. I just kind of feel like Tobey is the exact kind of interesting person that you'd see going around different Hollywood sound stages right now, because he doesn't appear in movies that much, and doesn't really go out on the town that much these days. Actually, I have to recommend to please watch our experimental What If video, where I imagined what the last decade would have looked like if Sam Raimi made a fourth Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire in 2011. I think a lot of people misunderstood what we were doing with that video, because I didn't really make it clear that I was speculating along a fictitious hypothetical timeline. I was not theorizing what will happen in the future. But the first half of that video is probably the most researched expose on who Tobey Maguire really is in his actual Hollywood history that you will find on YouTube. And that part was extremely factual, and a lot of people just think I was bullshitting or parodying or making it up. It's a great video, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Hey, comment down below with your thoughts on this news about Deadpool and Wolverine. Follow me at Erik Voss. Subscribe to all 3 channels of the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.